Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the City Club of Cleveland, America's citadel of free speech for 92 consecutive years. My name is Kevin Donahue, President of the Board of Directors, and on behalf of our entire board and staff here at the City Club, it is my distinct pleasure to once again welcome you to our traditional Friday Forum. Consider for just a moment this job description. Multi-million-dollar corporate giant looking for CEO. Must have ability to stem 2 years of steep losses, stave off rumors of potential bankruptcy, calm SEC concerns, and, oh, by the way, boost both employee morale and customer confidence all at the same time. How many of us would have applied for that job, and more importantly, how many of us would have succeeded? Our speaker today at the City Club is not only succeeding, but is authoring one of the most successful turnaround stories in American business today. Ann Mulcahy is Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Xerox. Ms. Mulcahy and her team are responsible for an aggressive, multi-million-dollar turnaround plan that returned Xerox to profitability, significantly improved the company's financial position, and expanded its portfolio of systems and services in a very short time. In 2001, Ann Mulcahy became the first woman CEO in Xerox's history, thanks in large part to her performance as its first female president and chief operating officer. She was named chairman in January of 2002. She has a vested interest in the company, having spent 28 years performing various jobs exceptionally well. She served as Xerox president and chief operating officer from May 2000 through July of 2001. Before that, as Xerox's general markets operations. From 92 through 95, Ms. Mulcahy was vice president for human resources, really understanding the business from the employee's perspective. Initially, she began her Xerox career as a field sales representative in 1976 before assuming increasingly responsible sales and senior management positions. In addition to the Xerox board, Ms. Mulcahy is a member of the board of directors of Target Corporation and Citigroup and is a member of the Business Council, also a board member of Catalyst, a nonprofit organization supporting women in business. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the City Club podium the Chairman and CEO of Xerox, Ann Mulcahy.
Well, thank you all. Thank you for the very nice introduction and the very warm welcome here to the City Club of Cleveland. I'm just delighted to be here. And I have to say that one of the reasons it's such a great opportunity to come to Cleveland is we have lots of great relationships, great customers. It's an opportunity to tell you thank you for your business. We appreciate it. We want to continue to earn it every day, and these are just fabulous forums for us to be able to deliver that message. And it's been a great morning. I did have a chance to spend some time at Key Bank. Margot hosted an executive exchange there, which was just wonderful. And to meet with a colleague, Bob Keegan from Goodyear, who we have faced some similar challenges, and yes, we have. And I have to tell you, it's great company to have those kinds of colleagues in business that you respect and can learn from. And certainly to see so many of you here, the Cleveland Clinic, and so many of our relationships in the community that are just so important to certainly the Xerox community. Today it was suggested that I speak about a topic called the customer connection. And I happen to love the topic, so it worked really well. But I have to tell you that I thought it was, maybe kind of a tame subject, and particularly when you think about the foundation of the City Club of Cleveland, founded in 1912, and it was to encourage the presentation of new ideas and the free exchange of thoughts. So a pretty noble mission, and talking about customers and customer focus, might be a little bit mundane for such a weighty platform. But I have to tell you that as I thought about it, it truly has been the dramatic foundation that was responsible for some of our biggest problems and some of our biggest successes, so it did seem appropriate. And I think that sometimes the fundamentals and the foundations of our business are the ways you return to greatness, and it's doing the things that you've always done best in the past that can be the most impactful. So there's no question, had we been paying attention and been totally focused on markets and customers, that we might have certainly avoided a lot of problems. I think not just at Xerox, but some of the excesses, certainly of the 90s and the dot-com area that kind of led us astray for a while. And any number of ways that kind of led us in the business community to what I refer to as chasing vaporware. So this one is an opportunity to stay pretty grounded about a very fundamental principle of successful businesses and talk about a customer and specifically, hopefully, from a CEO perspective. I came to kind of my attention to the customer quite naturally. I did begin my Xerox career in sales, and I guess some would say I've never stopped selling, and it's a charge to which I happily plead guilty. But I think staying connected with customers has to be part of any business's DNA, and something that we work really hard at Xerox to maintain. We have a great history and heritage as well. As a matter of fact, the founder of our company, Joe Wilson, and we have it framed all over Xerox today, used to say, customers determine whether we have a job or we do not, and their attitude determines our success. Kind of a visionary statement for, a man who founded a company based on one of the greatest inventions in the world, who certainly had the right to potentially not be focused so much on the customer. And I think that legacy is actually what finally got us back on the right track and saved Xerox, certainly from extinction. And unless you've been living on another planet, you'd know that Xerox certainly faced one of its worst crises in its history over the last few years. And hopefully you also know that we've emerged from it and that we're kind of reflecting. But I think what probably wasn't apparent, and there was lots of certainly publicity about liquidity issues and regulatory issues, and certainly a lot of very visible challenges the company had. But I would say that the real root cause of how this company got into trouble was losing sight of the customer. And it also is how we got out of trouble, by figuring out that that had to be our primary focus as well. So what I thought I would do today is briefly talk a little bit about the situation Xerox found itself back in 2000 and describe how we got out of it by focusing on our existing customers, then kind of transition to how you both keep those customers and attract new ones, which is, I think, the biggest challenge for all customers focused on growth, and then certainly leave plenty of time to discuss what's ever on your mind. So let me just start by talking about where Xerox was just very few years ago. I was actually, when you read the job description of CEO of Xerox, I'm not sure I would have applied for the job, but I actually, when I first became president of Xerox and I was looking for counsel, I was also looking for money. I actually picked up the phone and called Warren Buffett because I thought perhaps that my masterful selling skills would help him invest in Xerox. Well, those of you who know Warren Buffett knows he never invests in technology companies, but he did give me a lot of great advice. And he said, you weren't promoted, you were drafted into a war. And I thought it was like a great comment. And actually, he said, you got drafted into a war you didn't start. You better focus on your customers and lead your people as though your lives depended on your success. So it was a pretty sobering conversation about the responsibility of, certainly a great company with a great history, with great people, and some of the challenges that we faced. Oscar Wilde once said that nothing focuses the mind like the sight of the gallows, and I'd have to say that all of us at Xerox could see those gallows being erected, so we were pretty focused, and there's no question that the prospects of extinction were looming over us. Bankruptcy was rumored daily in the press. Our revenue was declining by double digits. We were in a loss situation for 8 quarters. Our cash on hand was shrinking. As a matter of fact, I think we had just under $19 billion of debt and about $120 million of cash, and I couldn't find it, the $120 million. It was captive in countries all over the world, and the fact is that our customers clearly weren't pleased. We weren't focused on responding to them. Our employees were losing their confidence and defecting, and by May 11th of 2000, the price of our stock had fallen in half, and it was continuing to head south. And that was the day I was named President and Chief Operating Officer. I told the group at KeyBank this morning that it's typically at a point like this where you'd say it fulfilled a lifelong dream, but I think I accepted this job with equal parts of pride and dread. But I had a couple of wonderful assets that I quickly figured out were more important than, quite frankly, money in the bank at that point in time. And the first was a customer base that loved the Xerox brand, was loyal, and wanted Xerox to survive. And the second was a really loyal and committed and dedicated employee base that would do anything that was required to save the company. And those assets, I have to tell you, are just extraordinary in times of trouble. So we went to work and we spent a lot of time with our customers, our employees, industry experts, and somewhat of a different approach for us. Most of that time was spent listening to them. And customers told us that we had great technology, but our responsiveness really had slipped badly. Industry experts told us that we had some of the best innovation in the world, but we better focus on doing a few things extremely well and pick our shots. And employees told us that they'd do whatever it took to save the company, but we better provide clear, explicit direction in terms of where this company was headed. So we did lay out a pretty aggressive turnaround plan. If you find yourself in a crisis, it is a window of opportunity, and the opportunity to change and change quickly is there for kind of a limited amount of time. So it's a pretty ambitious plan to turn the company around, and I think we've been surprised at what extraordinary progress the people of Xerox have made in really implementing this turnaround plan and getting the company back to health. We've taken more than $3 billion out of our cost base so that we can focus on competitiveness and really being best in class in everything that we do. Tough decisions, outsourced parts of our value chain that were no longer competitive, our office manufacturing, some of our back office operations. We worked real hard to make sure that as we did that, we also moved as many jobs as we could with the best of class employers so that our people would not be unnecessarily punished for some of those decisions. We've dramatically reduced our debt by half. All of our debt now is the financing of customer receivables. We've doubled our equity. We've increased the market capitalization by about $8 billion. And in 2000, Xerox lost $273 million. And in 2004, we made $859 million. And I think we've still got a long way to go in terms of what the returns we expect in the marketplace. So today, fortunately, a lot of that hard work is beginning to yield some very positive returns. This year, we actually generated records amounts of cash from our operations and continued to really strengthen all aspects of the business going forward. But I think the most important part of this, certainly we've fixed the financial situation, restructured the balance sheet, restructured the company so that we could deliver sustained profitability. But the third leg of this strategy was about really investing in the company's future. And it was really important to our people that they feel a sense of confidence that they weren't kind of hanging out to survive, that they were going to be part of a company that was going to be a great company again. So while we were certainly taking a lot of tough decisions and taking a lot of cost out of the business, we actually didn't take a dollar out of research and development. And as a result, over the last 2 years, we've introduced 75 new products and solutions to the market. Almost 2/3 of our revenues come from products and services we've introduced in the last 2 years, which is a big, important metric for a technology company. And fortunately, the most important metric, our customers are voting with their checkbooks in terms of really taking on Xerox solutions and winning market share, and a lot of that in direct face-offs with our best competitors. So to be the understatement of all times, it's been the opportunity of a lifetime, and I have learned more in the last few years than I probably have in the rest of my life in terms of certainly things like the power of leadership, the power of communications, The fact is you can't do enough of it. People need to hear it consistently. They need to absorb it and really believe in the direction. I've learned a lot about the power of culture. Corporate cultures have kind of gotten a bad rap lately, and they're wonderful things. They're not perfect, and things have to change, but they're really what defines more than just the business results, but the values and the community engagement and the spirit and the enthusiasm of the people. And you've got to certainly change the bad, but you have to leverage the good. You've got to bring people with you, particularly when you're implementing such dramatic change. Learned a lot about being able to really articulate a vision of where you're taking the company. A really quick story that people were always asking me what we would look like when we came through the turnaround, which was an extraordinary vote of confidence. I kept wondering why they weren't asking if we were going to get through it versus what we'd look like. And it became clear that they needed to have a view of why it was worth staying. And I'm not big on PowerPoint document strategies, but we decided to write a Wall Street Journal article. And this was in 2001. We wrote it for 2005 and described the company that we wanted to be. And it, metrics and atlas quotes and really emulated what had been obviously a very painful experience in the Wall Street Journal to date, and said, this is the vision, this is what we're looking for, this is how we want this company to be viewed in the future. And I have to tell you that articles had legs. It's everywhere in the company. And to this date, people constantly reflect on, how much of it has come to life. And when they talk about something that hasn't, been delivered yet, they kind of say, well, when is this going to happen? And it's always a little sobering for me because I have to tell them we made it up. It was fiction. Hello. So in any case, vision is important, and delivering vision in a way that people get it and can absorb it and feel a part of it. Power of leadership is enormous, and the fact is that bad leadership can destroy things overnight really quickly, and good leadership takes a really long time, a lot of consistency to move mountains over time. And certainly the most important thing was the power of people, and the fact that if your people are aligned around a common set of objectives, it beats and trumps strategy and planning every day of the week in terms of the power of getting things done. But I think I learned in a new and deeper way about something we take too easily for granted, and that is the customer is the center of our universe. And when you forget that, it really is the root causal for shareholders losing value, certainly employees losing jobs, and suppliers losing all sorts of business opportunities. And I don't think anything else really matters. That's when the firm can spiral downward. There's a couple of pieces of research that I always find kind of startling that we know about, but we don't often pay attention to. And it really talks about the value of customer service with stunning clarity. The first is that across industries and around the world, if you can retain 5% more of your customers than you currently do, your bottom line profit will grow anywhere from 25 to 50%. The leverage of keeping and growing and, delighting your current customers is just so hugely important. And fact number 2, it takes 5 times as much money and effort to attract a new customer as it does to retain an old one. And I would guarantee you that in most companies, the ergs of effort on gaining new customers versus retaining old ones is a little bit disproportionate. So it's kind of common sense. We all know it, but we don't always behave that way. And that's certainly one of the things that got us into some serious trouble. A few years ago, we made some decisions that clearly didn't have the customer in mind and didn't respect the strength of our people's relationships with our customers and the need to kind of make sure that you deliver on the promise of improving the relationship and the customer experience. And I'd say we learned a very powerful lesson the hard way. So we have been on a mission to put the customer first and really develop a set of principles that we can live by as a company that really guide us in terms of our decision making. And I don't think they're magic by any means. They're relatively straightforward, but here's kind of our set of principles that we're really running our business by. And the first one is about listening. And, we certainly had a reputation over the years for great innovation. Not always innovation about what our customers wanted or needed. And, innovating with the customer in mind really is a much different process than innovating for the best next whatever that might be fulfilling from a research perspective, but not from a customer perspective. So it is about the customer's current problems and opportunities that should be the foundation for any kind of innovation that you're delivering, and it can't be delegated. I think it's got to be understood firsthand. It's got to be something that your entire team takes accountability for. It's not a customer relations department kind of responsibility. I have to say that is the focus of all my travel. I won't get on a plane unless there's a customer-focused objective on the other end. And I can do lots of other things when I'm there, and certainly visiting with Xerox employees is very high on my list. But it's got to be customer-focused. That's the reason for certainly being out there, and I think one of the primary roles for a CEO. And our team does share a passion about this. Our top 500 customers are actually owned and accounted for by our executive team, and everyone on the executive team is involved. Our chief accountant, our general counsel, our head of HR, all have ownership for customers, and their job is making sure that the appropriate Xerox resources are marshaled, they fix problems, they raise issues, they really kind of keep that customer culture at the forefront. Funny story, about a week and a half ago, I was on the elevator with our chief accountant, and it happened to be the day that we were filing our 10K. And so I said, Gary, how did it go? How's it going? And he said, well, I made the call, and he starts telling me about a customer call that he made the day before. I said, Gary, did we file the 10K? And it was just an amazing thing that our chief accountant, when I asked how it went, immediately thought I was referring to a customer call versus, so hopefully that culture is beginning to take off. In our corporate headquarters, there's about 20 of us who take responsibility. We call it Officer for the Day. And when you're in the box, you have to assume personal accountability for answering any customer issues that come in. And when they reach headquarters, they're usually pretty frustrated. It's kind of that court of last resort. Bob's nodding his head. You recognize this. But the Xerox Officer of the Day has 3 responsibilities. The first couple are obvious ones, and that's understanding the customer's issue and fixing their problem. The third one, I think, is kind of unique, and we really do hold them accountable, and that's fixing the underlying cause of the problem. They've got to champion a resolution that actually ensures that we don't have another customer calling about that particular issue. And I do think it's permeating our decision-making. It's actually building this culture that allows us to allocate resources to the right places. And I think it's particularly critical for those of us in the IT industry. When I think about the amount of money our customers invest in IT, it's incumbent for us to listen to what they're telling us and begin to understand their problems and respond with value-added solutions and get it right, and not just, quite frankly, put in the next generation of technology. So the next one is, even in the worst of times, you have to invest in the best of times. That it's so important. We had a lot of challenges at Xerox when we were taking a lot of cost out of the business and we weren't cutting research and development, but I thought it would have been kind of a pitiful situation to avoid financial bankruptcy and face technological drought a couple of years down the road. So we didn't take out R&D. So we bit the bullet. We continued to invest, and clearly that process has helped us return the company to growth and really launch a whole set of services and technology solutions that hopefully are now very focused on addressing customer issues, real customer problems, and beginning to pay off. So investing in innovation to solve customer problems is kind of the foundation of our strategy. The third is about alignment, and that's just really making sure that everybody's kind of thinking this language of creating customer value. And I did visit with a CEO a few years ago, and he gave me a very provocative thought. And his gauge on investment was to kind of put it through the thought process of, would the customer pay for this and think it's helpful? And simple thought, but actually an excellent screen, and it's got a double payoff because it actually streamlines costs and adds customer value. And I think this is where I'd have to say from top to bottom, we're really getting Xerox people connected to their customers. 80% of our people have direct contact with our customers. It used to be about half, and therefore it makes it much more personal in terms of the mission that people are on and why they feel this mission to ensure that we're solving customer problems. And one example I love is I happen to be on the board of Target, and they had an issue with regard to some of their direct marketing opportunities, and we took a pilot and looked at their bridal registries, which is really huge at Target, and they obviously send a lot of communication to the folks that are preparing to get married, and then it kind of stops once they're married. So we had a team come in, a Lean Six Sigma team, and look at the process and say the biggest opportunity is like the day they come back from the honeymoon, send them the list of what they didn't get with a 30% discount. And for those of you who do any direct marketing, 1% returns are usually great, 40% return on this. So it was a pretty extraordinary kind of opportunity. And that's the power of one-to-one marketing and really using technology to either grow a business or solve a customer problem. So this kind of holy grail of one-to-one marketing is becoming real. This is the place where I put in a plug. We can do that for you too. So for those of you that would like to grow your business in a more efficient and more targeted way, the power of direct marketing and communications through digital technologies today is pretty special. So the next strategy is about really focusing on value, and that's not selling customers your products, but actually selling them, offering them solutions to their problems. And we look at the hundreds of billions of dollars that have been spent by businesses and governments and universities on IT, and we've started to characterize the old world of IT as the little I and the big T. The focus was always on the technology. And the fact is that we all have a responsibility to kind of change that now and think about it differently. The focus has to be on the big I, little T, the values in the information, where it goes, what our customers do with it. And that's got to be the focus when we think about technology. So it can't be upon the features and functionality. It's got to be about reducing cost and complexity and improving the customer experience. And then technology is an interesting discussion, but it's got to kind of come behind the improvement of the customer experience. The next area, kind of the last one, is about service. And I think we have a very different definition today on what we think about with customer service. There's been a norm around for a few years that actually looks at 75% of customers who defect say they were actually satisfied. And our own research bears this out, by the way. Customers who say that they're very satisfied are 6 times more likely to repurchase or recommend than those that are just satisfied. And there's a great concept in a book by Jim Collins. It's a great book about leadership, but this happens to be about the concept of good to great. And it's that the enemy of great is good. And if you're just providing your customers with service that's good, they're probably just satisfied, and that ought to set off the alarm bells. And for those that have any involvement in the auto industry, you would know that 90% of customers are satisfied, 40% repurchase from the same supplier. So this need to kind of raise the bar and really ensure that we are doing a better job of bringing our customers to a higher level of satisfaction is really important. And I think this context of technology and big I and little t and trying to get a better return on that $500 billion on information technology that spend has been characterized by George Forrester Colony, calls it naked technology. And it's basically technology that's sold without business process change or people issues understood or corporate culture involvement. And it kind of comes down to the fact that productivity is not embedded in software code, and certainly business improvement doesn't come in a box, and yet lots of companies just continue to acquire technology without the necessary changes. And the reason is because it's tough to change the processes and the culture, and sometimes it's just easier to write a check, but it certainly isn't yielding all of the returns. And when you look at and survey executives, we look at it a lot because we're trying to help solve some of these problems. Less than half of business executives think technology makes their job easier. 1/3 believe IT actually makes their work more complicated. And when average work days stretch for 10 hours or more, workers are only at peak productivity at half that time. So we know that this kind of information overload is getting in the way, and that it's hard to find the information you want when you need it for a decision, and that problem only gets a little bit more challenging with information doubling certainly every 3 years. So this is the kind of business challenge that I think for those of us in the technology industry that we need to be focused on and ensure that our technology solutions are really driving the value and availability of information to make better business decisions. And that kind of productivity really requires a deep understanding of the dimensions of work. So we're trying hard to stay focused on that very important need of our customers. We actually have anthropologists and social scientists that work side by side with our development engineers now, looking to embed as much practical work process into the way technology is being developed to basically make technology the slave and not the master. And technology should really be about liberating people and making our wonderful inventions, helping people become more human, not less human. So it's a big challenge. And I have to say that we've got a long way to go. This is a company that certainly has been tested and challenged, and we certainly don't have all the answers. But piece by piece, we're putting together an approach that's focused on a passion around our customers and solving our customer problems. So this is an opportunity to say all of you, when you make those decisions, put a lot of trust in us, and we want to deliver a great return on that trust. So I think I'm going to end where I begin by probably refuting the notion that this topic of customer focus is kind of a mundane one, because I actually think it is a powerful one, and that when we stray from it, we do so at our own peril. We're a great proof point for that, and we're hardly unique in terms of certainly some of our business learnings. But this focus on back to basics and customer focus and business fundamentals, I think, has a huge opportunity to get business growth back in our portfolios and certainly enable investments that will help this economy grow. I think it's hopefully a big idea and one that's worthy of the City Club of Cleveland. And that's probably a good place to say thank you for your attention and open it up for any questions you may have. Thanks very much.
Today at the City Club of Cleveland, we're listening to Ann Mulcahy, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Xerox Corporation. We'll be returning to our distinguished speaker in a moment or two for our traditional City Club question and answer period. We encourage you to formulate questions now for our speaker while we pause for just a few announcements. We welcome all of you here, especially those who are guests today. We hope you will join the City Club and become active in our ongoing civic dialogue. We also welcome those listening on WCLV 104.9 FM on Fridays at 12:30 and at 11 p.m. on WHK 1420 AM. Radio broadcasts of the City Club are made possible through the generous support of Case Western Reserve University. Our television broadcast partners are WVIZ, PBS, IdeaStream, and Adelphia Television. Those television broadcasts are supported by National City Bank, John Carroll University, and the Nordson Corporation. We thank those organizations for their wonderful support of our club. Next Friday, March 18th, we will be hosting the annual High School Debate Championship, a real tradition here at the club. The two finalists, Alyssa Lane and Michael Jasku, both from Hawkins School, will debate Resolved, democracy is best served by a strict separation of church and state. And on Tuesday, March 22nd, we'll be conducting a special forum with Dr. Barbara Bird Bennett, the CEO of the Cleveland Municipal School System. For more information about our programs or to make reservations or perhaps order a tape of today's program, please call our club. The numbers are 1-888-223-6786 or 216-621-0082. Today's forum is the annual Sally Greaves Endowed Forum in honor of Women of Achievement, which recognizes a very generous gift from the Greaves family to the City Club Forum Foundation. Sally manages a successful financial investment firm and is actively involved with many, many civic organizations. With us today are both Sally Greaves and her husband, Bob. Will you please both stand so we can applaud your support of the club? Thank you. Thanks very, very much, as always. We're also very fortunate today to have corporate sponsorship for today's forum from KeyBank. This program is the second in the 2005 KeyBank Diversity Thought Leadership Series. KeyBank has been very supportive of the City Club for many years in many different ways, and we're delighted that both Yank Heisler, chairman of KeyBank, and Margot Copeland, chair of the KeyBank Foundation, are here with us today at the head table. Would you both please stand so we can acknowledge you? Thank you very much. We'd also like to welcome four very special ladies who were among the first women to join the City Club as members in 1972. With us today at the head table are Nancy Cronin, Nina Gibbons, Doreen Lazarus Harris, and Jane Scott. Will the four of you please stand so we can welcome you and thank you. Real trailblazers, and thank you for being here today, all four of you. We'd also like to welcome guests at tables hosted by In Council with Women, KeyBank, United Parcel Service, and of course, Xerox Corporation. Thank you for joining us today as well. Finally, we are pleased to welcome to our forum students who are here as part of our City Club student program. Participation of these students is made possible by a generous grant from the Fred E. Scholl Foundation, Bernard L. Carr Chairman. With us today are students from Early College High School. Thank you for joining us today as well. Now we'd like to return to our speaker for our traditional City Club question and answer period. We welcome questions, and again, please, questions only from everybody, including all of our guests. Holding the microphones are Membership Manager Marcella Brown over in this part of the room, and our Marketing Director, Missy Toms, over here. And we please have our first question for Ms. Mulcahy.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman.
A little formal.
When you were speaking of the problems that Xerox encountered a few years ago, I found conspicuous by its absence any reference to a very popular topic today, and that is the role of the Board of Directors. Would you comment on the contribution that the directors made to the problems, and just to get you in real trouble, what has been done, what role is the board taking today in Xerox's success? Or is it entirely a function of the administrative leadership of Xerox exemplified by yourself?
You could probably characterize this as a career-limiting question, but I'll give it a shot. And first of all, I think it's, for any of us, any of you who've participated in corporate boards, either as members of a management team or on the boards as independent directors, the world of boards has changed dramatically over the last few years. And I have to tell you that I look back on my own experiences as a board member as well as the Xerox board and say all boards were in a very different place, 10 years ago, 7 years ago, 5 years ago, in terms of their depth of engagement with companies. And we know now that wasn't a good thing, and I think we've all taken steps to get boards more engaged. They have a very different set of responsibilities today than they did a number of years ago. So I think our board felt incredibly disappointed and concerned about the fact that the issues that arose at Xerox happened on their watch. A few stepped out pretty quickly and, quite frankly, didn't want to deal with the issues that we had, and I will forever be grateful to the 5 or 6 board members who stuck with me and said, we're going to help support and get this company back in shape. And they were, I'll tell you, stellar people. People like John Pepper from Procter & Gamble, Ralph Larson from Johnson & Johnson, Hilmer Copper from Deutsche Bank. We had, just an incredible 5 or 6 people that stuck with us, took the heat, by the way, because the press was merciless on the company as well as the board. So their own reputations were at risk. And, I can't say enough about the fact that they stepped up to the plate and worked with us to solve the problems. Even to the point, so the part of the question about did the board play a role, the board played an important role. John Pepper personally went with me to the SEC to help negotiate and solve the regulatory issues that the company had. His reputation was pristine, and it wasn't exactly a fun role for him to play, but just a man of extraordinary credibility. So the answer is that they became actively involved in the turnaround of this company, and we kind of kept a small board. It wasn't a great recruiting season for board members during 2000 to 2003. So, it was like 7 or 8 of us that kind of focused in and worked the issues in the company. We've now brought 5 new board members on board, and so we've kind of refreshed the board and brought some new folks in. And I would tell you, it's the role of boards these days. It's like night and day. These people are fully engaged. They, have just a tremendous amount of input, both, very helpful. I get a lot of feedback from the board. So I think it's one of the positive outcomes of perhaps the corporate crisis world that we've lived in, that I think boards are playing a much more significant role than they have. I think there have been some negative outcomes too, but I think from a board engagement perspective, it's been a plus. So good question. Thank you.
Ms. Mulcahy,
Yes.
years ago, the word Xerox was probably in the dictionary. When I had needed something to be done, to be duplicated, I would send out and tell the person that was going to go and take this document and say to him or to her, please have this Xeroxed. Meaning, of course, your company's name has become a winged word that is used in everyday business. What is the company's product now that we all know and we all will know about?
Great. By the way, we'd be okay having things Xeroxed if it was always on Xerox machines. That would work for us. So verbs are okay as long as there's an integrity about the brand, but unfortunately that's not the case. And so, we're a very different company today than we were in the past. We don't actually probably even market standalone copiers anymore. We live in a world, everything's networked, everything's multifunction, it's quickly transitioning to color. Of our revenues of $16 billion, $3 billion of them are delivered with services, meaning that it's a services-led problem solution approach versus a technology refreshment or replacement approach. We do things that have nothing to do with paper anymore. We manage content, we do imaging, we digitize processes, we help companies really compress the cycle time on very document-intensive processes, saving companies a lot of money and making them more efficient. We do direct marketing programs that use variable data, which is only capable on digital technology. So we do live in a very different world. We're in the document space. We love that space. It just doesn't mean it's paper alone anymore. And certainly single-function copying in the world of the networked office really isn't the predominant method of communicating and sharing information anymore. It's much more about scanning and faxing and copying and printing, and now they're all available on a single device in very efficient ways. And And most importantly, I think it's using those document technologies as part of a solution that includes people and software, and that really adds the value to the kind of value proposition we extend to our customers. So it is a wonderful thing to have a strong brand, and it's tough to buy a strong brand. So I'm thrilled. I think our most important asset is our brand. But it is challenging sometimes to change people's views and memories of what that brand stands for. So we work hard to kind of extend the reach of the brand now much more into the more broader document space than just, quite frankly, the world of copying.
You outlined a very comprehensive group of goals. How did you communicate this and educate and monitor this with your employees?
You know, I think, and I said that the easy part, and sometimes we spend a disproportionate amount of time on it, is developing the strategy and the plan. The hard part, some people call it execution, and I think it's more about alignment and embedding it within the company, and that's how you get to execute. So the communications piece of it is hugely important, and I'm a big believer that nothing takes the place of direct face-to-face communication and dialogue with your people. You know, we're a technology company, so we do webinars, and we communicate in 1,000 different ways and use technology, but quite frankly, the face-to-face communication is the most important part of that because it sticks. People look at and hear and ask questions, and it creates a dialogue around it. We're also a very metric-driven company as well. So we do measure what we manage, and that's probably become even more embedded in our company. We're a Six Sigma company. We have about 15,000 trained black belts, yellow belts, and green belts, people who really focus on improving all aspects of the business, and it's all about measuring and bringing to the bottom line those kinds of capabilities. So, yeah, we've got lots of measurement systems. When it comes to the customer, I think we have probably one of the most advanced customer metrics. It's a system called Sentinel, and it's just-in-time customer information. So it immediately relays a response regarding any kind of service or communication you've had, and then within 30 to 45 minutes, we get a response back to customer. Most customer survey systems are so lagging in terms of their approach that the customers, been angry enough or had the problem around enough that they grow impatient of waiting for the response. So Sentinel's a way to kind of get real-time response to our customers as well. But we have a whole set of dashboard metrics around customer and business metrics that we look at constantly and share with all of our constituencies. So communication and measurement, I think, are the ways you get things done, whereas strategy and planning, you can be roughly right, but I think when it comes to the communicating and measurement part, you have to be pretty precise.
A few months ago, the president of Harvard University issued a very unusual statement. I think he since apologized for it or said it was taken out of context. But basically the point was that he felt that in certain areas, maybe it was mathematics or science, men excelled over women. Certainly your career and experience has shown that in the area of leadership, you have shown great qualities. But I wonder, from your experience, in what areas do you think that women perhaps excel over men?
Okay. I'm glad you didn't ask me what I thought about the comment, but if I had a daughter, she wouldn't be applying to Harvard right now. So in any case, it's kind of a slippery slope, I find, when you talk about leadership qualities that are more prevalent in men versus women or the reverse. And I'll tell you why. Because I've heard and I understand that sometimes there are women who bring a level of teamwork and perhaps empathy and, kind of the real collaborative kind of skills that hopefully are, I think, indicative of good leadership, whether they're male or female. But I think those generalizations are a little bit dangerous. I happen to know a lot of male leaders who, I guess the better way to put it is that I think good leadership is just simply good leadership. And it doesn't really reside genetically in any dominant way in men or women differently. And I think that if you kind of go down that path and try to create those cases for those differences, it leads to some pretty dangerous stuff. There was an article in USA Today about a year ago, and it looked at the performance of 5 women CEOs in the Fortune 500 opposed to their male counterparts in terms of their returns in the market for that year. And it just so happened that the 5 women CEOs had much better returns than the rest of the marketplace during that period of time. And Xerox was right at the top of the list. Now, we had started from an all-time low, so it was kind of not a fair comparison. But the fact is, it took that snapshot, 1 year, market returns, 5 women CEOs against male counterparts. And everybody was kind of clipping it out and saying, yes, I said, don't go there, because you know what? What happens next year when it goes the other way? I mean, I don't want to play that game. That's not a good one to create trends and generalizations around. So I think we have to kind of stay away from, generalizing in those categories, but really focus on what I think is a very different profile of leadership that's required in businesses today than what we've seen in the past.
Ms. Mulcahy, when companies get into trouble, there's a great temptation to cut corners, ultimately leading, if there's deception, either in the markets or for customers, for the demise of the company. And I'm interested in what Xerox has done with respect to corporate ethics.
Yep. Well, certainly corporate ethics was a really important topic to the company. I have to tell you that Xerox people are very proud of Xerox. Lots of people joined Xerox because of its ethics and values and stayed with it over the years because they were proud of the reputation. So when that gets challenged and damaged in the marketplace, it's a really painful experience for the people of the company, for the customers, for all of the constituencies. So restoring credibility around certainly integrity and social responsibility and corporate ethics is a big part, I think, of building back a reputation of a company. And that's taken a lot of our energy after a lot of the damage that gets done during a crisis that certainly challenges that. So it is a case of once you step into that territory of losing credibility, you know that you've got to walk an incredibly straight line and be consistent and probably be role model in everything that you do, because you understand that there's nothing more precious than a company's reputation in terms of the way it's perceived in the marketplace. So we have absolutely gone down a path of leading the pack in terms of establishing a dedicated ethics office, hotlines, training, making sure that we've got signatures by every single one of our employees in terms of the values and the ethics of the company, of being a no-nonsense, zero-tolerance company for any indiscretion in the company, being really tough-minded and not, really varying, if you will, from the rules in terms of when people violate something, they go. That's it. We can't tolerate that kind of risk to our company reputation. So I think it's a multifaceted kind of approach that builds back credibility. It's about transparency. It's about, certainly being consistent in terms of your expectations and delivery. It's clearly about all the things that you put in place from a regulatory perspective that do provide the kind of governance that people have confidence in. But I would come back to it and say that the number one most important thing, and no amount of regulation will substitute for good leadership. And that if you want a company with good ethics, then you've got to have a team of people that are role model and reflect that in their value system, because there's just no checks and balances that can offset that, a leader that doesn't reflect the kind of ethics and values a company wants. So it's sometimes when I get concerned that we're all so busy checking boxes in terms of regulatory overlays that we don't lose sight of the fact that a lot of this is about courage and leadership, and it's not just about the regulatory environment. But yeah, thank you very much. Thanks very much. Great, terrific. Thank you. Thank you.
Today at the City Club of Cleveland Forum, we've been listening to Ms. Ann Mulcahy, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Xerox Corporation. Thank you very much, Ms. Mulcahy. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. This forum is now adjourned.
Very